Hi everyone, John back with another strong, happy, healthy, loved podcast. We're dedicated on this channel to bringing you inspiring conversations with people about their lives, their mental health awareness, how that's impacted them, and how it's set them on their path to living their best selves. Today I've got an incredibly special guest. His name is Anthony, not his real name. And for privacy and confidentiality reasons, we're only going to be using the audio portion of this interview. You listen to his incredible story of overcoming these personal challenges, finding faith in life, and how that is now supporting him as he lives his experience. Enjoy. My very, very special guest today is Anthony. Mate, welcome to the channel.
Oh, good morning, John. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. And look, thank you so much for joining me. I know this is right out of your comfort zone, so I do appreciate your commitment and courage today.
I think courage is a really good word to have.
It is, and we're going to certainly get to that a little later on. So, as I like to do, we'll dive straight in and get to your origin of where this started. And as we've mentioned for confidentiality, that we're just going to go over the basics. So if you're able to just step me through the early part of your life for context.
Well, I'm the result of a love romance. So my mother is Anne. She is a daughter of a German immigrant, and my father, John. By the way, John
Yes.
is my father. Is my father, John.
Yes.
So, so they got together. My mother was 19, and as I said, they had a romance together. And so I was born in the early 70s, and I'm still here today, John.
Yeah. And obviously, this love connection that started, I guess, and it didn't progress as potentially you would have liked. So,
No, it didn't progress as I like. Well, I was a baby and a child, John.
yeah,
A baby and a child is dependent upon their parents,
yeah,
aren't they?
absolutely.
Yeah. So, given the fact that I was born out of wedlock, that is, it was like a romance that they have. The policy of the day was for unwedded mothers to give up their children for adoption. And so the other factor within the family was Kathy, my sister to my mother, Anne, and John's brother had a baby as well. So Anne, my mum, was 19, and Kathy, her sister, was 16. So I think they were uh, the factors that resulted in the adoption of both of us.
Fine.
So I was adopted, born in the Royal Brisbane Hospital, and adopted out when I was 2 years of age. And as well, my cousin, who we spoke about earlier, was a result of Kathy and her relationship. Um, she grew up in Rockhampton, and I've had the great opportunity to meet my cousin Amanda, and she was the pineapple princess of Rockhampton.
There you go. But
But
it's interesting looking at your situation. Like two is quite a long period of time, and you've got that bonding. If you're going to say normally with adoption, it's normally within that first 3 to 6 months, but you've got all that time. You're walking by then. You talk. You've got some identity, and then you're given up for adoption. So I mean that's certainly going to create a challenge, I imagine, for a young identity.
well, absolutely, John, because uh, we are mammals, John,
Hmm.
and we need each other. Like it says, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
So, so without the parents, especially in the early days of infancy, if you don't have the mother's love there are barriers in the future because there is developmental issues that in the early days from birth until two, you, I don't know, John. I think a child needs to have a relationship with the mother. And when that wasn't there, um, you go inward.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I ended up at Nudgee Orphanage. And I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
So Nudgee Orphanage is no longer there.
Right.
Uh, Adoptions is very, very limited now. It's not like it was in the 70s, which was the peak. I don't have the figures, but there are quite a very large number of children, like myself, given up for adoption.
Mm.
Mm. So without that, early child development from, the infancy, um, I can just surmise I was just left in an orphanage and left to my own devices. Um, I
Yeah, it would have been a
understand. I
strange
understand.
and very unusual time for a developing mind at two. You know, when you look at
Mm,
most 2-year-olds, the curiosity and the joyfulness and the playfulness.
mm,
So I could only imagine that that creates a trauma or damage
mm,
to the psyche. Um,
yeah.
and then,
So
yep,
yeah. So with the damage you're talking about, John, um, yeah, I was pretty much non-verbal, and as well, I was crying all the time. So I was very much non-verbal until maybe in my late teens, early 20s.
wow,
Yes, John. It's been one hell of a struggle to get this far.
yeah.
But as we met each other before, John, I'm still here.
Absolutely, and that's one
Mm,
of the reasons why I really do look at you as a inspiring and the courage that you show because we're only just getting into it and what you've said so far is enough to be incredibly challenging and yet you were adopted out, weren't you, to a family, a foster family came in and wanted to raise you.
yeah, yeah. So the foster family came in, but that didn't work because they had struggles within their own relationship of the husband and wife. Um, I don't have the figures of how long it was for. I don't think it was very long. Um,
So that the idea isn't that you find a supposed loving family that's going to take you in and raise you as
mm,
their own, and then obviously then you're now taken back again and then replaced back into the orphanage. Uh,
mhm,
Again, creating more. Well, what's going on? Why am I here? What's my purpose? Uh,
mm.
and then again, you were another foster family came in, correct? To
No, this was an adoption at a legal adoption at 2.5 years of age. So,
that you were adopted out.
mhm, yeah,
And not necessarily going into any of the details there, but it wasn't all a positive experience, right? Lots of abuse on many levels. Like you said, being nonverbal. Um, I can only
yes.
the struggle you must have gone
It,
through.
it was a big struggle, John. So, in terms of the characters, my adopted father, he wanted to be a Catholic priest. However, he was rejected from the seminary because he had osteogenesis imperfecta, which is a brittle bone disease. So, because of his physical ailment, they would not accept him. So, he worked within banking. And my adopted mother, she was a nurse, and she was a nurse for her whole life. I loved her very much, my adopted mother. Um, I can't say that with any um, less of a degree. I did love her as a woman. However, with the dynamics of the family, they had their own daughter together, the husband and the wife. So they had their child, and I was the adopted child. So that was always something hanging over my consciousness that I wasn't quite part of the family, and they would kind of like make light of that fact. And I carried that all through high school and into
So
my
you were
early
aware, they
adulthood.
made you aware that you were not theirs, that you had, what age did you find that out?
I can't give you an
Okay.
age, I know ever since I started developing the consciousness. So I always knew. So that they were, I guess, decent in a way to let me know that. However, I don't like how I was played off as being the adopted child rather than their child.
Sort of
And
an exclusion kind of role.
an exclusion, John, because I never really had a birth certificate. All I had was a birth certificate extract. So I had the extract. It just had my name and date of birth. It didn't have any details of parents. So I had this little extract. I carried it around with me forever. And that's, mm, that's it, John.
We talk
I have
about
an ex.
identity, isn't it? Of finding,
Mm,
why we're here, who we are. I mean, we've spoken a little bit about you. You tried sports and that didn't necessarily play out. What gave you a sense of peace? Or, did you read or play games? What was your kind of go-to for time?
uh, I think first and foremost in 1982, I remember that significantly. I started really enjoying music,
Okay.
especially pop music. So I'd always have music playing in the background. Yeah, I wasn't very good at sport, even though I did health and PE in my final year at high school. Really loved water polo. Played a bit of golf. I didn't like golf because I was always over par. But yeah, archery and water polo were my favourites.
Yeah.
Um, mhm. So music got me through from 10 years of age onwards, and I would just sit there and listen to the words, listen to the music, understand the lyrics. We're always interested about what they were singing about.
Okay.
So that started for me, John, is to being infiltrated by media, so to speak, rather than being able to um, I don't know, prosecute my own identity. So I listened to other people, and that helped build my soul.
Yeah. And you do have an incredibly high intelligence. I guess that's part of that hypervigilance and
Mm.
sometimes, the survival mechanisms that I've seen you, the things you pick up on and your attention to detail is quite incredible. And I'm sure on some level that's as much a gift as it is the challenge. And I know
Yes.
you struggle a little bit with some mental and some physical challenges.
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to go into too much around that, but I guess that's been
Yeah.
another struggle that you've had to play with as well, right?
Yeah. So the physical challenge, probably when I reached puberty, I had issues with juvenile arthritis, and that incapacitated me. This is why I didn't do sport until I reached 17. Um, so I was in the school choir, and I was in the social committee. That was my outlet in terms of socialization. So I wasn't part of the sporty group. I was into the choir group and the social committee group.
And how did you find interacting? Did you connect well with people? Were we quite reclusive? How did you sort of,
No, I was reclusive. However, I did have a circle of friends at school, and I was actually a best man for my friend at school, and I will always remember him.
yeah.
So I did have a social group. Um, I think every school has their little cliques, don't they?
Hmm.
They had their little circle of influence. So um, I would like to say that my group were a wholesome group. It wasn't, um, bullying.
Okay.
There was no aggression within the group. We could talk and have a conversation. Um,
Well, it's nice to think that you had some support and some level of nurturing along the way, if only, through the school activities.
that's right. And as well, John, I started work when I was 15. So I was rarely home. I was always doing something. All I would do is go home and sleep and eat. And I'd either go to school or go to work after school. So I was talking about hypervigilant. I was always busy. I was always doing something. I think being adopted and having a adverse childhood with the parents and their own biological daughter. I tried to get out as much as I could because it was a toxic environment. So I spread myself out outside the home. So that was an um, early thing that I took on, is to remove myself from that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at some point, you found faith in a higher power, and that when did you first kind of identify, or was it something you read, or you just had that instinctively?
So I went to an all boys Christian Brothers school. So again, we're talking about, Generation X. So we're talking about a generation just after the baby boomers. So I was at school. It was Christian Brothers. So we had, you know, brothers in the Catholic system who had their own seminary at school. So I think when I was 16, well, when I was 15, I won a science competition, and that was really good. So that was in grade 10. And so from 15 till 17, my father was, as I said, he wanted to be a Catholic priest, and he exhibited all those other factors, um, including pedophilia. So I just avoided the man altogether. I didn't talk to him at all. And what happened, there was a chapel at school. So one day I just hated my life. I couldn't go any further. So I walked up the stairs to the chapel. I sat down and said, God, if you're real, please get me out of this situation that I'm in. And that's where it started. Something like faith
Yeah.
came to life within me. Faith in something greater than myself. We can call that God, the creator of the universe. So if God, with the romance of my parents, if they can create me, God can help me move in love as well, because I believe love is the most powerful force in the world. Love is stronger than hate. So I was in the chapel, something happened to me, and somehow God came alive.
Yeah.
And that was when I was 17. That's when it started for me, John.
Hmm. And like I said, it hasn't
Mm.
necessarily been a religious process, but like I said, that faith was awoken in you, and like I said, to find the things you just said then about this love, that for a person that potentially hasn't been shown much kindness and love, that it's alive and well within you.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's quite amazing. That hope springs eternal.
Mm.
Your desire to continue to be you, I guess, in spite of the limitations. I find that quite um, inspiring and incredibly courageous. I mean, when did you sort of feel that you had this kind of inner world that was all yours?
Um, you're talking about, for lack of a better word, self-aware.
Yeah. I mean, just your. I mean, a lot of people might find themselves down the path of drug and alcohol or
Mm.
self-harm, and yet you kind of knew that there was something else that you wanted to have, and you
Mm.
asked God for
Mm.
help, and something was supporting you, and that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of kept you on that path ever since.
Yes. Yes. Mm.
So it was there, 16, 17, the ideals.
Yeah.
You obviously they taught that at school, and then all of a sudden it became something a little bit more than just the indoctrination, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened? Probably, you know, left school, did some tertiary education, didn't complete that at the time. Then I went to work, and I was at work, and again, the light bulb came on. So I went to an Assemblies of God church, and the Assemblies of God church is like a Pentecostal church. And I made a decision to kind of like follow God at that stage. Excuse me. And yeah, so what happened? God, instead of something who can help me, God became alive and became part of my being. And that's part of the Christian understanding, is that the Holy Spirit comes inside of you to live inside of you and helps you with a relationship with God. So that happened in my early 20s, and that's when I moved out of home for the second time. Um, mm. So I moved out of home, and when I did my tertiary studies, it was very difficult back in those days. There was no really social security for studying for people in my position, so I had to work. And then I lost my job, and just because of lack of finances, I moved back home, and then my adopted father went to jail for an isolated event of child sexual assault. So I prosecuted that. Um, so self-aware. So we're talking about forgiveness, John. What is forgiveness? I think forgiveness is something that is qualified by repentance, that is turning away from your bad ways. If they don't turn away, you just have to prosecute. And that's what I did for my life. Instead of being treated like a commodity within the family, or treated as a father figure within the family, I prosecuted my case to just remove myself from this individual altogether. Um, so I think we may off track here, but
No, I
um,
appreciate the sharing, and it gives all that context and bringing in forgiveness. Again,
mm,
something that you've found to support you in life. I mean, we talk about the ideals of strong, happy, healthy, loved. Of those four kind of virtues or ideals, I mean, which one kind of resonates with you at the core?
uh, both the beginning and the end of the acronym. So strong,
Yeah,
number one, and loved, number two.
yeah,
Um, as we know, people without strength, and I know exactly what that means, to be disempowered. So without strength, um, we tend to live a life inward rather than outward. So you focus on your own feelings, your own hopes for a better life. So strength relates to me because I know what it's like to be disempowered. So we're not talking about narcissism here. We're talking about strength in terms of having you know, the knowledge of good and bad, but knowing the truth about that as well. So being strong in that acronym, strong, happy, healthy, loved. Strong is one for me, and as well the last acronym, love. Love is so important because, as I said, love is the most important force in the world, and change not only your life but people around you, which is what we're doing today, aren't we, John?
well, yes, that's the intention, isn't it? And obviously, we
Mm.
can't do anything except support people and ask the questions and have these conversations, which I think is very important. That if we don't get to communicate and share, I'm curious, Nota, now, does music still, hold a very valuable place? And what else do you do to find motivation and then positive self-talk for yourself?
So music is still very important in my life. Um, Music is there every day. Thankfully, I have a very large CD collection, as well as you know some on the computer as well.
Still
Save
old
files
school,
on them.
right? We still like the hard white, something solid to play, right?
We are solid, John. Yes, we still like that, don't we? So music is number one. So I have two outlets. I did go to a concert on the weekend. Like growing up in the 90s, I saw a DJ. His name was Sasha. He's from Wales in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
He's 55 and he's still working.
Incredible. Yeah.
So I met him in the 90s and he's still going, and I really respected that. I felt at home there at the concert hall. I was looking around, everyone was my age. So we are a little group of people. So back in the 90s, in the DJ influence, everyone loved each other. No one fought. There was no coward punching. Everyone was friends. But that was the 90s. We're living in today now. So going to a concert when I'm able to, or someone who I want to see, yeah, is very important. But every week is also I go to a Baptist church,
Okay.
and they have gospel music playing before the sermon. So that's also helpful as well
Yeah.
to just be there, hear the choir, hear the music, hear the piano, and follow the lyrics, and that's something I enjoy every week.
And I believe animals hold quite a strong support network for you as well, correct?
I'm taking care of a dog called Archie at the moment.
Nice.
He is I help the owner.
Mm,
Um, the owner's in Japan at the moment.
yeah.
So me and Archie have developed a friendship.
Well, it's nice that people
So
trust you, to look after their fur babies. And
mm,
I know you've got a friend, Oscar, correct? That's out in the park that you visit regularly.
yes, I do have a raven. His name is Oscar. He's probably the largest raven there.
Mm,
So could we say he's an Australian crow? I don't know. So Oscar spends his time by himself. He doesn't associate with the other crows. So Oscar has a level of independence, but as well, he comes right up to me, he comes up to my feet.
yeah.
And if I want to, I just sit down on the grass and feed him from hand to mouth. And
Brilliant.
he's such a beautiful, beautiful bird. I remember once we were going for a walk near Victoria Park golf course, and there was a sea eagle, a juvenile sea eagle in the tree, and it was crying, so possibly crying to its mother. Maybe it got lost. So Oscar was there with me. He flew over. So I give Oscar a bit of meat, that is cooked hamburger, and Oscar would take it, fly up, and feed the sea eagle.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, wow,
Okay.
isn't that absolutely amazing? A different species of bird helping another one.
Yeah.
So after that, I started really respecting Oscar, that he's cognizant of what's around him, and he's also compassionate to those who care, or who need care. So the juvenile sea eagle needed care, and Oscar was there to provide it. So yeah, good on you, Oscar.
Well, that's
What a
sentiment,
great bird.
isn't it? That animals do have an incredible knowledge, and they say that crows
Mm,
are incredibly intelligent. You go back to
yes,
old, North mythology and Odin with the crows, and they were
yes.
watchers. So I definitely see that symbolism and the totem animals that we surround ourselves with.
Hmm. They do say that the raven is the most intelligent bird in the world,
Mm,
and I believe it to be true.
yeah. And I know
So
you have,
it's a
sorry.
privilege to it's a privilege to be able to see Oscar. But I haven't seen Oscar since tropical cyclone Alfred.
Okay.
He's
Yeah.
gone missing. I don't know where he's gone.
Sure.
So I'm always hoping that he's at KFC looking for a chip. So,
Yeah.
so
Interesting. I know you have a little bit of
mm,
equine connection as well. You spent some time with horses and the joy you get from that.
absolutely, John. This is how we know each other.
Hmm.
I remember when I first met you. Um, I wasn't necessarily overwhelmed by their size. I am now overwhelmed of how my voice has evolved and developed in terms of giving instructions to animals.
Yeah.
Like walk on, and you're having a 400-kilogram beast walking around in a circle under your voice command.
Yes.
Um, so you teaching me that, John, is can't be bought. Money can't buy that experience. It is a spiritual experience.
Appreciate that. And obviously, yeah, again, it's that leadership. I think there was time there that you just wanted to have the friendship of the horses until you realized that you were actually leading the horse and the horse wanted to find out what you were made of as well. So it's wonderful to see your growth and evolution in regards to stepping into that world of leadership and being a very strong, you know,
Mm.
male in that
So
regard.
yeah, so Jupiter's my horse.
Yeah.
Um, as we know, he's white and brown, same color as Jupiter. But could it be that I'm friends with Jupiter because he's a very large planet with a large gravitational pull? So Jupiter's pulled me into his gravity.
Yes, absolutely, yeah, the
Mm,
gassy giant. But in nature too, I mean, his temperament is very much that of a people uh, person and loves being around, loves the cuddles. I mean, every horse is
mm,
like us. We have different temperaments, so it's interesting. You found a bird, to connect with, and a horse to find some kindred spirit with. So
mm.
like I said, wonderful that we can find other areas of life through music, through nature to just show up authentically.
Yeah. I agree, John, 100%.
So look, we're almost getting to that point, but I wanted to ask you a question around the challenge you faced. And look, a lot of people have suffering in life, and a lot of people get tested. What are your thoughts or any words of support for people who are going through, difficult times? What gets you, past that struggle?
I don't really have a formula for you.
Mm.
So, talking about music and talking about media, um, I like to consume things that are good, things that are positive, things that build your strength, movies of love. So, all I'm saying for my life, because I live by myself in an apartment, so I'm always got media happening. So I've made the cognizant, the the strong choice to have good influences. So essentially, good stuff in to your soul, good stuff out through your mouth and your eyes. If you consume on the bad stuff in, the bad stuff comes out through your mouth and bad stuff out through your eyes. That's my formula, John.
I love it,
I'm
mate.
not I'm not a psychologist, but if you eat healthy, you be healthy.
Yeah,
Mm,
I love it.
that's all I can say, John.
Energy in
Um,
versus energy out, correct?
that's right. So I think Newton said from every action is an equal reaction, equal and proportionate reaction to the action you put in. So Newton knew that a long, long time ago, and I think that started off, scientific thought and exploration.
Amazing. No, I appreciate your thoughts and
Mm,
and look, we've spoken about this for a while, so I really do thank you for your willingness to step in to this. I
mm,
know it's caused a little bit of angst along the way, but I really do love the fact that you've managed to share and show what courage sounds like and living your
mm.
best self every day.
Well, yes, I agree with you. We've been talking about this for a while now, and we've come down to the pointy end of it, and
And we're doing.
and we did well, John.
I think you've done
We
amazing. No, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So I think courage, if you're willing to, you know, change to strength, courage is necessary, and we've proven that today.
Just like I said, going through by the grace of God, through
Mm,
trusting the process that the right things show up potentially. So
mm,
you're an amazing advocate for just another,
mm,
one day at a time, following your
mm.
heart.
Thanks, John.
No, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
I really appreciate
Okay.
you and thank you for your time today. This has been a strong, happy, healthy, loved podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you along for the next one. Much love and kindness. Bye for now.